The night that changed everything. The night started with a question that felt harmless, but it carried the weight of a storm. It happened in a small kitchen at the back of a huge mansion, a place where the soft hum of expensive machines mixed with the simple sound of a young woman washing dishes. Her name was Lina. She was 26, quiet, gentle, and always tried to stay invisible because she believed the world worked smoother when she did not disturb anyone. But inside her chest lived a heart that had been bruised too many times, a heart that still hoped for something better even when life gave her none. She worked as a maid in the house of Arman Halim, a 34-year-old millionaire known everywhere for his cold face, his sharp focus, and his power in the business world. Arman rarely spoke to anyone unless he had to, and when he did, his words were usually clipped and direct, the kind that made people straighten their backs quickly. Yet for reasons Lina did not understand, he never spoke harshly to her. He barely spoke at all, but there was something softer in his silence whenever she was around. Lina assumed it was only because she always stayed out of his way. On this night, however, everything began with a small, trembling voice from her friend and co-worker, Maria. "Lina, you really have to go," Maria whispered while drying a plate. "He has been waiting for you for 30 minutes. Lina froze, her eyes widened. She felt a strange heaviness in her stomach. She wished she could disappear into the sink. "Maria, I don't think I should go. You know how these things end. I don't belong in those places." Maria frowned and shook her head. "Lina, it's a blind date, not a job interview. Please at least give someone a chance to treat you well. You deserve that." The problem was not that Lina didn't want to be loved. It was that she had been hurt so much that she no longer trusted her own hopes. All her life she had been told she was too plain, too quiet, too poor, too ordinary. And tonight she only had $5 in her pocket. It was everything she had left after paying for her rent, her bus card, and a little food for the week. She did not even have a nice dress. She wore the same faded black one she used only for special days, and even then she felt like it betrayed her by looking too sad. But Maria insisted, until Lina nodded weakly. So an hour later, Lina was sitting in a small restaurant across from a man named Rihan. He was tall, confident, and dressed like he believed the world already belonged to him. But what caught Lina off guard was not his shiny watch or his expensive shoes. It was the expression on his face the moment he saw her walk in. Disappointment. Obvious, sharp disappointment, like someone handed him an empty box when he expected gold inside. Lina felt it stab her, but she sat down anyway because she promised Maria. The date started badly and only grew worse. "So," Rihan said with an arrogant smirk, "this is what Maria thinks is my type." Lina looked down at her hands. She felt the air around her tighten. "I'm sorry if this is not what you expected." He laughed, not kindly, not softly, loudly enough that two nearby tables turned to look. "Not what I expected. Honestly, this feels like a prank. I told Maria I wanted someone classy, someone who could match my level." His eyes scanned her from head to toe, slow and cruel. "No offense, but you look like you came here straight from cleaning a house." The words hit her like stones. He didn't know how right he was, and he didn't care how much it hurt. Lina could feel the heat building behind her eyes. She tried to stay calm. She tried to remind herself that the world had always been this way for her, but there was something different tonight. The humiliation felt heavy, almost unbearable, maybe because she had dared to hope even a little. Rihan leaned back and crossed his arms. "Let's be real, what do you even do?" She swallowed. I work as a maid." He snorted. "Of course you do." The shame crawled inside her chest like fire, but she forced herself to breathe. She wanted to end the date early, but the moment she stood up, the waiter placed the bill on the table. Rihan raised his eyebrows and pushed it toward her. "You invited yourself here," he said. "You can pay." The total was much more than she had. She only had $5, $5 small dollars. The room blurred. She wished she could vanish. She wished her life was not always a place where she had to apologize for existing. She opened her small purse, hands shaking, and placed the $5 on the table. "This is all I have, I'm sorry." Rihan laughed again, louder this time. $5? Are you serious? Wow, this is embarrassing. No wonder you work where you do." The humiliation cut deeper than anything she had felt in years, but something else also stirred inside her. A quiet strength, something she didn't yet recognize but would soon depend on. She stepped out of the restaurant, fighting tears, walking fast, hoping no one saw what happened. But someone did. Arman Halim. He had been sitting in a dark corner of the restaurant for a private meeting. He had seen Rihan's mocking smile, Lina's trembling hands, the $5 on the table. He felt something strange twist inside him, something sharp and protective. He had known Lina as the silent maid who worked quietly in his house, but tonight he saw a different part of her world, a part he didn't like. When Rihan walked out with his proud swagger, Arman stepped into his path. You should apologize, Arman said quietly. Rehan blinked. Excuse me. Arman's voice was calm, but his eyes carried a warning. You should apologize to the woman you just humiliated. Rehan scoffed. Do you know her? Arman replied without hesitation. Yes, and you owe her an apology. Rehan laughed again, but this time it sounded weaker. Man, relax, she's just a maid. And that was the moment something cold entered Arman's expression, something so intense that Rehan flinched. She is a human being, Arman said, his voice low, and you will not disrespect her again. Rehan muttered something under his breath and walked away quickly, suddenly smaller, suddenly unsure. Arman didn't chase him. He wasn't thinking about Rehan anymore. He was thinking about Lina. He stepped outside and saw her walking down the sidewalk, wiping her face with her sleeve as if she didn't want the world to know she was crying. He wanted to call her name, but he didn't. He didn't know how to approach her without breaking her more. Instead, he followed quietly, making sure she was safe, keeping a distance so she wouldn't feel watched or pitied. He didn't expect her to suddenly stop walking. And he didn't expect what happened next. She turned, her eyes red and filled with tears, and stared directly at him. Why are you following me? She whispered, her voice shaking. But before he could answer, before the air could settle between them, a loud car screeched around the corner and began speeding straight toward her. The headlights lit her face. The world froze. The sound was too fast. The road was too dark. Arman shouted her name, even though he never used it before. And the cliffhanger hit like thunder. Everything was about to change. The car rushed toward Lina with terrifying speed, its headlights cutting through the dark street like two white blades. For a single second, she could not move. Her body froze, her breath stopped, and every painful memory she ever carried rose inside her chest all at once. The humiliation from the date, the old scars of being treated as less, the years of struggling for survival, everything blended into one moment of helplessness. But right behind all of that was Arman, and he moved before his mind even understood what he was doing. He sprinted forward, grabbed her arm with both hands, and pulled her out of the street with more force than she ever expected from him. The car sped past, honked angrily, and vanished around the corner, leaving the two of them breathing hard on the sidewalk. Lina fell to her knees from shock, her hands shaking, her heart pounding so loudly it echoed in her ears. Arman crouched beside her, his chest heaving, but his voice was steady when he spoke. Are you hurt? He asked softly. Lina shook her head, but tears streamed down her face. Why did this happen? Why was it me again? Every time something bad happens, it happens to me. He looked at her in silence for a long moment, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a clean handkerchief. Without a word, he held it out to her. She hesitated because she didn't think she deserved kindness from someone who lived such a different life, but something in his eyes made her take it. She wiped her face slowly. I'm sorry if I caused trouble. Arman frowned slightly. You didn't cause anything. She lowered her head. I shouldn't even have gone on that date. Why did you? He asked. She let out a small, weak laugh. Because Maria said maybe someone would finally see me as more than a maid. I guess she was wrong. Arman watched her carefully, the way her shoulders curled inward, the way she tried to disappear even when she was sitting right next to him. He had never noticed how small she made herself around others. He had only seen how quietly she worked, how she always brought calm into the house. But now, seeing her like this, he felt something unfamiliar inside him. It wasn't pity. It was anger, not at her, but at the world that taught her to shrink. Lina, he said gently, what that man did was wrong. She nodded, though she didn't believe she deserved better. It was cruel, he continued, and you didn't deserve it. Her lips trembled at the word deserve. She had never felt like she deserved anything beyond survival. She stood slowly, brushing dust off her dress. I should go home now, thank you for helping me. She bowed her head slightly, the way she always did at work, and began to walk away. Arman stood up as well, unsure of whether to follow. He never liked crossing boundaries, and he didn't want her to feel overwhelmed. But something told him she wasn't okay, not yet. I'll walk you home, he said. That's not necessary, she whispered. I know, he replied, but I want to. She looked at him confused, surprised, unsure of why a man like him would care, but she didn't argue again. They walked side by side in silence, the cold air brushing against them. For a long moment neither spoke, but the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt careful, gentle, like something new was trying to grow between them. When they reached her small apartment building, Lina paused near the gate. This is it. Arman nodded. Thank you for letting me walk you. She gave a tiny smile, one that came and went so fast he almost missed it. Thank you, she said. He was about to turn and leave when he saw her face fall again, as if she suddenly remembered how the night started. The blind date, the cruel laughter, the $5. Something inside him tightened. Lina, he said, may I ask you something? She hesitated. Yes. Why did you walk into that restaurant alone when you knew you had so little with you? Her eyes filled again, but she blinked the tears away. Because I wanted to feel normal, just for one evening, like a woman someone could like, someone who mattered. I thought maybe someone wouldn't care that I'm poor, that I have nothing except my work and a small dream of a better life. What dream? He asked gently. She looked away. It doesn't matter. It does, he replied. She sighed softly. I wanted to study again, I wanted to finish school, I wanted to work in a real office one day, but dreams are expensive and I can barely pay rent. Armin felt something inside him shift. He had built companies, created opportunities for countless people, but he never stopped to think about how many lives existed like hers, full of quiet dreams and small budgets, where even $5 mattered. She forced a small smile. It's okay, I'm used to this life. He didn't respond. She walked up the stairs toward her door. He stood at the gate, watching her go, feeling a strange pull in his chest, but then something unexpected happened. When she reached the top step, her legs shook. She had been too overwhelmed, too stressed, too shaken from everything that happened. Her balance slipped. And she fell forward. Armin rushed up the stairs, catching her before she hit the ground. She gasped, stunned, not expecting to fall, not expecting him to still be close enough to save her again. I'm sorry, she whispered. I think I'm just tired. He nodded. You've had a long night. He helped her stand properly, making sure she didn't fall again. Her hand rested lightly on his arm for balance, and for a moment the world felt strangely still. Please, she said softly, don't worry about me, I'll be fine. He looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the exhaustion, the sadness, the years of carrying burdens alone. And in that moment, he made a decision quietly inside himself. He wasn't going to let the world continue treating her like this. But he didn't say anything out loud, not yet. He just nodded gently and stepped back. Good night, Lina. She opened her door and stepped inside. Good night, sir. The door closed slowly. Armin walked down the stairs and back to the street, the cold wind brushing against him, but his mind wasn't thinking of meetings, responsibilities, or business tonight. He was thinking of Lena's trembling voice, her broken dreams, and the $5. He took one step, then another, deep in thought, until his phone buzzed. It was Maria. Her voice sounded terrified. Sir, something happened, something about Lina. Please come back, please hurry. Armin froze. A chill shot through his chest. Something inside him told him this night was far from over, and whatever was coming next would change both their lives forever. The cliffhanger grew darker. The story was only beginning. Armin drove fast, faster than he had in years, his hands tight on the steering wheel as Maria's voice echoed in his mind. Sir, something happened, something about Lina. Please come back, please hurry. The streets blurred outside the car windows. His heartbeat refused to calm. All night he had watched Lina fall apart, then stand up again, then nearly lose her life in the street, then slip on the stairs like her strength had finally reached its limit. She was fragile, exhausted, overwhelmed, but she wasn't someone who asked for help easily. So if Maria sounded panicked, something much worse must have happened. When he reached the mansion, Maria was standing outside the servants' entrance, her face pale, her hands shaking. She rushed to the car as soon as he got out. Sir, I'm sorry, I didn't know who else to call, she said in a trembling voice. What happened? Armin asked, his voice low but urgent. It's Lina, she fainted. The words hit him like a punch. Where is she? He asked quickly. Inside, on the kitchen floor. I tried to wake her but she didn't respond. We called the ambulance already but they haven't arrived. Armin didn't wait for more details. He ran inside the mansion, his shoes echoing sharply against the polished floor. When he entered the kitchen, his chest tightened painfully at the sight. Lina lay on the ground, curled slightly to the side, her hair spread like a dark curtain around her pale face. Her eyes were closed, her lips trembling faintly, as if her body was fighting something unseen. Her breathing was shallow, almost fragile. He knelt beside her immediately. Lina, he said softly, touching her shoulder, can you hear me? Her eyelids fluttered weakly, but she didn't open them. Her fingers twitched once, then went still again. Maria stood behind him, tears in her eyes. She came back from the date, went straight to her room for a few minutes, then came down to get water, and suddenly she just collapsed. Armin clenched his jaw. He understood now. The humiliation, the stress, the near accident, the fall on the stairs, her empty pockets, her fear of disappointing people, her exhaustion from trying to survive every day. Her body had finally given up. He gently lifted her head and placed it on his lap. Her skin felt warm, but her breaths were too light. It scared him in a way he didn't recognize. Then he saw something beside her on the floor, a small notebook. It must have fallen out of her pocket when she collapsed. The cover was worn, the edges bent, like she had opened it many times. "Sir," Maria whispered, noticing the notebook too. "That's her dream book." Armin frowned. "Dream book?" Maria nodded. "Yes, she writes everything she hopes for in there. Small things, big things, everything. She never shows it to anyone. She thinks people will laugh." Armin stared at the notebook, feeling an ache inside him he couldn't explain. He didn't open it, not yet. It felt too personal, too sacred. But he placed it gently beside her as if protecting something fragile. The ambulance sirens finally grew closer. "They're here," Maria whispered. Two paramedics entered quickly, kneeling beside Lina, checking her pulse, her breathing, her reflexes. Armin watched every movement carefully, his chest tight. One of the paramedics looked up. "Her blood pressure is extremely low. She may be dehydrated and stressed. We need to take her to the hospital immediately." Armin nodded. "I'm coming with you." The paramedic raised an eyebrow. "Family." Armin's voice didn't waver. "I'm responsible for her." They didn't question further. They lifted Lina onto the stretcher. Her hand fell off the side, limp, swinging with each step, until Armin reached out and gently held it, guiding it back onto her chest. It was a small action, but Maria saw it. And in that moment, she realized something. Maybe this wasn't just concern. Maybe this man felt something deeper, something he hadn't understood yet. They rushed Lina into the ambulance. Armin climbed inside without hesitation, sitting beside her, watching every breath she took. The ride was silent, except for the monitor's soft beeping. He looked at her pale face, the faint shadows beneath her eyes, the tired lines around her mouth. She looked so small, so breakable, like someone who had carried too much weight for too long. "You should have told someone," he whispered, knowing she couldn't hear him. "You shouldn't have carried everything alone." But he also knew why she didn't. She wasn't used to people caring. When they reached the hospital, the doctors took her inside. Armin followed but was stopped at the door. "Please wait outside," a nurse said. He wanted to argue, but he stepped aside. He watched through the glass window as they examined her, placed an oxygen mask on her face, and inserted an IV into her arm. Maria had called him because she trusted him. But seeing Lina like this made him realize something he didn't expect. He cared too much. More than he should. More than made sense for a man who barely spoke to her at work. But this night had changed something inside him, something he couldn't ignore anymore. After what felt like hours, the doctor came out. "She's stable for now," the doctor said. "It looks like she fainted due to stress, exhaustion, and low blood sugar. She also seems emotionally overwhelmed. She needs rest, physical and emotional. Does she have any close family?" Armin shook his head. "No." "Then she will need support," the doctor said. "Someone to check on her, help with recovery, make sure she isn't working too much or starving herself." The doctor walked away, leaving Armin alone with his thoughts. He sat beside her bed when they finally allowed him inside. She looked peaceful now, her breathing deeper, her face softer. He watched her chest rise and fall, feeling a strange calm settle inside him. Then his eyes fell on the small notebook the nurse had placed on the bedside table. Lina's dream book. This time he reached for it slowly. He hesitated, his fingers brushing the cover. He didn't intend to invade her privacy. But he also knew this book held the truth she never shared. After a long moment, he opened it. The first page made his chest tighten. "I want to finish school someday." The next one. "I want to work in an office with windows and plants." Another. "I want to save enough to buy a second-hand laptop." Then. "I want someone to see me and not look away." And then. "I want to feel loved even once." The last page he opened made his breath stop. "Sometimes I wish someone would tell me I am worth something, just once." He closed the notebook slowly, his heart heavy. He had known she had dreams, but he never knew how small they were. How simple, How heartbreaking. He felt something tighten in his throat. This woman lived in a world that crushed her at every turn, yet she still dreamed. That kind of strength was rare. That kind of heart was priceless. He placed the notebook back, stood up, and walked toward the window. As he stared outside at the quiet night, he made another silent decision. He was going to change her life. Not because of pity. Not because she worked for him. But because she deserved the chance to live, to breathe, to rise. He didn't know how yet. But he would. He turned back toward her bed. And froze. The monitor beside her started beeping faster. Her chest was rising too quickly. Her fingers were trembling. Her eyes remained closed, but tears slipped out from under her eyelashes. The nurse rushed inside. She's having a panic response. Something is triggering her in her sleep. Armin stepped closer, his voice firm but gentle. Lina, you're safe, breathe slowly. But she didn't hear him. She whispered something instead. A name. And when Armin heard it, his entire body stiffened. Because it wasn't a name he recognized. It wasn't Maria. It wasn't her mother. It wasn't Rehen. It was someone else. Someone she feared. Someone from her past. Someone who might still be out there. The nurse looked at Armin. Sir, do you know who that is? Armin swallowed hard. No, he said quietly, but I'm going to find out. And the cliffhanger deepened. The name Lina whispered in her sleep echoed in Armin's mind long after the nurse left the room. It wasn't a name he had heard before, and yet the fear in her voice made it unforgettable. She didn't just say it, she cried it, like someone who had been running from a shadow for years. Armin sat back down beside her bed, watching her chest slowly return to steady breathing. Even when she slept, she looked as if she was carrying a mountain on her shoulders. The nurse checked her vitals again, then sighed softly. She's stable now, but whatever she was dreaming, it must have been something she carries deep in her heart. Armin nodded silently. He wanted to ask Lina directly when she woke up, but he also didn't want to cause her more pain. He respected her privacy, yet tonight made him realize she had been hiding much more than tiredness and poverty. She had a past that chased her even in her dreams. He reached for the small notebook again but didn't open it this time. He wasn't looking for answers inside her pages anymore. He was looking at her, at the woman who had been humiliated, exhausted, almost hit by a car, and now lay in a hospital bed whispering the name of someone who clearly haunted her. After an hour, Lina finally stirred. Her eyelashes fluttered, her breathing shifted, and she opened her eyes slowly, confused at first. Her gaze moved around the room, landing on the tubes in her arm, the heart monitor, the soft lights. Then her eyes reached Armin. She froze. Sir, what are you doing here? She whispered in a shaky voice. You fainted, he said softly. Maria called me. I came as fast as I could. Lina tried to sit up but winced. Armin immediately placed a hand near her back to help her rise gently. Thank you, she murmured, looking embarrassed, as if needing help made her feel weak. He shook his head. Lina, you don't need to apologize for anything, not tonight, not ever. She looked down, her fingers twisting into the blanket. I didn't want to cause trouble. You didn't, he said firmly. She took a small breath but didn't meet his eyes. I'm sorry you had to see me like this. Armin leaned forward slightly. I saw what happened tonight, the humiliation, the fear, the exhaustion. You've been carrying too much alone. A tear slipped from her eye, but she quickly wiped it away. I'm fine, really. No, he said quietly, you're not. She finally looked at him, startled by the gentleness in his voice. She had never heard him speak like that, not to anyone, and definitely not to her. Lina, he said, choosing his words carefully, when you were unconscious, you said a name. Who is it? Her entire face changed, the softness disappeared, her hands gripped the blanket tightly, her breathing quickened again. I don't want to talk about that, she whispered. Did this person hurt you? She shook her head too quickly, too nervously. No, it's nothing, sir, please forget it. Armin leaned back, observing her. Fear didn't lie. Her eyes, her trembling lips, the way she tried to hide behind her hair, everything told him this name carried a story she desperately wanted to bury. Lina, he said, I can't force you to tell me, but I want you to know you're safe now. Her voice cracked. I haven't felt safe in years. The words were so soft, he almost missed them. He looked at her gently. You don't have to be afraid anymore. She closed her eyes for a moment, fighting tears. People like me don't get saved, sir. We survive by staying quiet. He felt something hot rise in his chest. Anger at whoever made her believe that silence was her only shield. "You're not alone," he said, "not anymore." She hesitated, staring at him as if she wanted to believe him but didn't know how. Before either of them could speak again, Maria rushed into the room, breathless and worried. "Lina, thank God you're awake." Lina managed a tiny smile, though she still looked exhausted. Maria turned to Armin and bowed slightly. "Sir, thank you for staying with her." "She shouldn't be alone," he said simply. Maria nodded quickly. "Sir, I didn't know she was this weak lately. She's been skipping meals. She gives most of her money to her landlord and sends the rest to her younger brother. She keeps nothing for herself." Armin's heart tightened. He had known her life was difficult, but not like this. Not to the point where she denied herself food just to take care of others. Lina looked down, ashamed. "Maria, please don't." "No," Maria said softly. "He should know." Armin's voice deepened. "Is this true?" Lina didn't answer. The silence was enough. "You can't continue living like this," he said. She whispered, "I have no choice." "You do," he replied. "I will." But before he could finish, his phone buzzed loudly in his pocket. He ignored it at first, then it buzzed again and again. Maria stepped aside as he answered. "Hello." A tense voice came from the other end. "Sir, it's Imran from your security team. Someone came to the mansion asking for Lina. He refused to leave. He insisted he knows her. He seemed aggressive." Armin stiffened. "What is his name?" he asked sharply. The guard hesitated. "Sir, he said his name is the same one Lina whispered earlier." Armin's hand froze midair. Lina's face drained of all color. She heard everything. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Blood left her cheeks. Her fingers clutched the blanket like it was the only thing keeping her alive. The guard's voice continued. "Sir, he said he will not leave until he talks to her." Armin's expression hardened, colder than it had ever been. "Listen carefully," he said in a low, dangerous tone. "Do not let him enter. Keep him far from the property. I'm coming now." "Yes, sir." Armin ended the call and turned slowly toward Lina. Her whole body was shaking. "Lina," he said quietly, "who is he? What does he want from you?" A tear rolled down her cheek. Her lips trembled. And then finally, with a voice so small it almost shattered, she whispered, "Sir, he's the man I ran away from." Armin's eyes narrowed. "Why did you run?" And with a sob that broke something inside both of them, she whispered, "Because he said he would destroy my life, and now he found me." The room fell silent. The danger was real, and the cliffhanger wrapped around them like a tightening rope. The man she feared. For a long moment, Armin didn't speak. The hospital room felt too small, too quiet, as Lina's confession hung in the air like a shadow that refused to fade. Her hands trembled on the blanket and her eyes stayed glued to the floor, unable to face him. She looked like someone who expected punishment just for telling the truth. Armin stepped closer. "Lina, look at me." She hesitated, then slowly lifted her eyes. They were full of fear, guilt, and something else, something like hopelessness, as if she believed the past was stronger than her future. "Tell me," Armin said gently, "who is he? What did he do to you?" Her breath shook as she spoke. "His name is Farid. We grew up in the same neighborhood. He used to control everything around me. He was older, stronger, cruel. He said I belonged to him. He never let me talk to anyone. He never let me dream. When I tried to leave once, he grabbed my arm so hard I still have a mark. When I finally ran away from that place, he swore he would find me." Armin's fists tightened at his sides. "And now he has." Lina nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I didn't think he would actually come. I thought if I worked quietly, stayed small, stayed invisible, he would forget me." Armin shook his head slowly. "You were never meant to live invisible." She let out a weak, broken laugh. "Sir, I don't know how to live any other way." Maria placed a comforting hand on Lina's shoulder. "You don't have to face him alone anymore." But Lina only grew more tense. "If he knows where I work, he might follow me. He might hurt people. He might hurt you." Armin stepped forward. "No one will hurt me, and no one will hurt you. I won't allow it." Lina flinched slightly, as if kindness itself scared her. "Sir, please, Farid is dangerous. He never forgets. He never forgives." "Good," Armin said calmly, "because neither do I." Maria glanced at him with surprise. Armin was known for being calm, quiet, almost emotionless in business, but now his voice carried a depth that felt carved from steel. He wasn't simply angry, he was protective. "Lina," Armin said, "you're not going anywhere near him, and he will not come near you again." "But how?" "I'll handle him," he said. She shook her head quickly. "You don't understand. He will do anything to get what he wants. He has no limits. And neither do I when it comes to protecting people who matter." Lina looked at him as if she had misheard. People who matter. Armin met her eyes without hesitation. "Yes." She swallowed hard. "Sir, I don't matter. You matter to me." The words hit her like lightning. She stared at him, stunned, unable to speak. Maria brought her hands to her mouth, whispering, "Oh my God." Lina felt her heart beat in a way she didn't recognize, as if something inside her was waking up after years of staying silent. But before she could respond, the door burst open. A security guard from Armin's mansion rushed inside, breathing heavily. "Sir, I came straight here. We have a situation." Armin stood up. "What happened?" "The man who came to the mansion, Farid, he didn't leave." Lina's entire face drained of color. "Where is he now?" Armin asked sharply. The guard swallowed. "Sir, he's outside the hospital." Lina gasped. Maria grabbed her hand. Armin's expression darkened, his jaw tightening. "Did he follow you here?" "Yes, sir," the guard said. "He was waiting at the gate. He kept asking where Lina was. When we tried to make him leave, he said he knows she's inside." Lina pressed both hands to her mouth, her voice shaking. "No, no, please no." Armin immediately stepped to her bedside and placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "Hey, you're safe. He's not coming anywhere near you." She shook her head. "Sir, he's dangerous. He's not afraid of anyone." Armin looked at the guard. "Where exactly is he now?" "Right outside the emergency entrance," the guard said. "And sir, he's demanding to see her." Lina closed her eyes, tears streaming. Armin straightened, his voice colder than ice. "Get more security. No one lets him inside. I'm going out there." Lina grabbed his hand desperately. "Sir, don't, please, he might hurt you." Armin looked down at her, his expression softening only for her. "He won't touch me, and he'll never touch you again." She shook her head, terrified. "Sir, please don't go out there alone." But he gently removed her hand from his. "I have too," he said. "This ends tonight." Lina's heart pounded. "Sir, I'm scared." "I know," he whispered, "but I'm not." He turned to leave. As he reached the doorway, he stopped. And then, from the hallway outside, a loud, furious voice exploded. "Where is she? Where is Lina?" Lina's entire world collapsed into fear. And Armin walked straight toward the danger. The cliffhanger tightened. The night everything changed forever. Armin walked toward the hospital entrance with firm steps, each one stronger than the last. The hallway lights reflected on the polished floor, but his eyes were fixed ahead, sharp and steady. Behind him, Lina trembled in her bed, gripping the blanket so tightly her knuckles turned white. Maria stayed beside her, whispering, "He won't let anything happen, trust him." But Lina's heart felt like it was breaking. She had lived so long in fear that even hope felt dangerous. As Armin reached the main doors, he saw Farid standing outside. The man was tall, broad-shouldered, and carried a dangerous energy like he owned the night. His anger was clear. His fists were clenched. His eyes searched the hospital entrance like a predator looking for prey. "You're the boss," Farid spat when he saw Armin approach. Armin didn't respond with anger. He responded with silence, a silence more powerful than shouting. He stood tall, calm, unshaken. Farid stepped closer, his voice rising. "Where is Lina? I know she's here. Bring her out." "No," Armin said simply. Farid frowned. "What did you say?" "You heard me," Armin replied, his voice steady. "You're not going near her." Farid laughed loudly. "Who are you to tell me? Lina belongs to me." "No," Armin said again. "She belongs to no one, and she is not afraid of you anymore." Farid's jaw tightened. "You think you can protect her? Someone like you doesn't understand people like us." "I understand enough," Armin said. "I know what fear looks like. I saw it in her eyes, and I also know what strength looks like, and she has more than you ever will." Farid grabbed Armin's collar, but Armin did not move. Even the guard beside him took a step forward, unsure whether to intervene. "Listen," Farid hissed. "I want Lina. I will take her back, and you won't stop me." Armin's voice dropped to a cold whisper. "You will never see her again." Farid raised his fist, but before he could strike, 3 security guards moved in, pulling him back. Farid shouted, kicking at the floor, "You think you can hide her? You think she can escape me?" Armin stared directly into his eyes. "She didn't escape you, she outgrew you. And now she will build a life you were never worthy of being part of. Those words hit Farid harder than any punch. He screamed, "This isn't over." "Yes," Arman replied quietly, "it is." The guards dragged Farid away from the hospital doors as he cursed and struggled. Once he was removed from the property, police arrived and took him into custody for trespassing and threats. Arman watched until the car drove away, then let out a slow breath. The fear that had followed Lina for years was finally gone. When he returned to her hospital room, Lina looked up with terrified eyes. "Is he gone?" she whispered. Arman nodded. "He won't come back." She covered her face with her hands and sobbed, not from fear this time, but from relief so powerful it shook her whole body. Maria hugged her gently. Arman stepped closer to the bed. "Lina," he said softly, "no one will ever hurt you again, I promise." She looked at him with wet eyes, confused. Why are you doing all this for me?" "Because you matter. Because you deserve better. Because you should not be fighting life alone." Those were the words in his heart, but he said something simpler, something she could accept. "Because kindness is not something you have to earn," he said, "and because I see your worth even when you don't." She cried again, but this time her tears were soft, healing. A few days later, Lina was discharged from the hospital. Arman arranged everything quietly, her medicine, her meals, her recovery plan. But when she returned to work, he met her in the living room with something unexpected in his hand. It was her dream book. Her heart jumped. "Sir, I'm sorry, you shouldn't." "I didn't read everything," he said gently, "just enough to understand that you've spent years letting the world tell you that your dreams are too small." She looked down, embarrassed. Arman continued, "Lina, I want you to follow those dreams, all of them." She looked up, "But how? I can't afford school or anything." "You can now," he said softly. "I'm offering to sponsor your education fully." Her eyes widened. "Sir, I can't accept that." "Why not?" he asked. "Because it's too much," she whispered. "I'm just—" "Don't say you're just anything," he interrupted. "You're Lina, and you deserve a chance." Her lip trembled again. "This isn't charity," Arman added. "This is belief." For the first time in years, Lina felt something bloom in her chest. "Hope. Real hope." She nodded slowly. "Then yes, I accept." Maria clapped joyfully. Arman smiled, a rare, warm smile she had never seen before. And that was how Lina's life began to change forever. She left behind her fear. She left behind her past. She stepped into a future where she could finally breathe. And standing beside her was the man who had seen her worth when the world didn't, the man who protected her, believed in her, and helped her rise again. The story ended not with a rescue, but with a rebirth. And Lina was no longer invisible. She had found her light.